Before we begin, let us know where you're listening from. After the story, rate it from 1 to 10. Now let's start. Vienna, 1848. The revolution had swept through the Habsburg domains like wildfire, threatening to consume the ancient monarchy itself. Yet within the Habsburg Palace, time seemed to move at its own measured pace, the rhythms of imperial life continuing despite the tremors that shook the foundations of the realm. Catherine Wright had not expected to find herself here, hidden among the palace staff, her elegant hands now roughened by work, her posture deliberately slouched to disguise the years of deportment training. The daughter of an English diplomat and an Austrian countess, she had once moved freely through these gilded halls, laughing, dancing, catching the eye of the young Archduke Heinrich Ziegler before fate and politics had torn them apart. 5 years had passed since that fateful night when her father, accused of liberal sympathies, had been expelled from Vienna. 5 years since Heinrich, newly elevated to the imperial throne through a succession crisis that had shocked Europe, had signed the order himself. A political necessity, Catherine knew, but one that had shattered her heart nonetheless. "You there, girl? The silverware needs polishing before tonight's reception." The housekeeper's voice cut through Catherine's reverie. "Yes, Frau Müller," she replied, keeping her eyes downcast. For 3 months, she had maintained this charade, working as a kitchen maid under the name Clara, her hair dyed a nondescript brown, her accent carefully modulated to sound like a girl from the provinces. 3 months of watching from the shadows as Heinrich carried the weight of an empire in turmoil, his once carefree smile now rarely glimpsed. She had returned with a purpose, to retrieve her mother's diary, hidden years ago in a secret compartment in the Empress Maria Theresa's study, now Heinrich's private reading room. The diary contained not just family secrets, but information about Austrian diplomatic codes that, in the wrong hands, could compromise imperial security. When her father had written of rumors that revolutionaries sought the diary, Catherine knew she had to act. Yet each day, her resolve weakened. Each glimpse of Heinrich, taller now, his shoulders broader, his eyes shadowed with worry, reminded her of what they had once shared. Those stolen moments in the palace gardens, his hand gentle on hers as he taught her the names of stars in both German and Hungarian, his native tongue. In the kitchen, Catherine worked methodically, polishing silver forks until they gleamed. Around her, the preparations for the diplomatic reception intensified. The Austrian Empire teetered on the brink, with Hungary in open rebellion and Italy slipping from Habsburg control. Tonight, ambassadors from Britain, Russia, and Prussia would attend, their nations watching carefully to see if the young emperor could hold his domains together. "Clara, take this tray to the imperial study," ordered the head butler, thrusting a silver service into her hands. His Majesty requested tea before the reception. Catherine's heart leapt to her throat. "Sir, I'm not trained for direct service to His Majesty. Everyone else is occupied. Go now. And remember, eyes down, speak only if spoken to." The journey through the palace corridors felt endless. Catherine had prepared for many contingencies, but not this. Not standing face to face with Heinrich. The diary would have to wait for another day. She knocked softly on the study door. "Enter." His voice, deeper than she remembered, but with the same musical cadence that had once made her pulse quicken. Catherine pushed the door open with her shoulder, balancing the heavy tray. The room was warm, a fire crackling in the marble fireplace. Heinrich stood by the window, his back to her, looking out at the gardens now touched with autumn's first blush. He wore his military uniform, the white jacket adorned with gold braid, his dark hair longer than protocol strictly allowed. "Set it there," he said without turning, gesturing to a small table. Catherine placed the tray down carefully, arranging the porcelain cups, the silver pot, the small plate of lemon slices. She'd done this 100 times in the past 3 months for other officials, yet her hands trembled now. "Will there be anything else, Your Majesty?" she asked, keeping her voice soft, her gaze on the carpet's intricate pattern. Heinrich turned, distracted, a document still in his hand. "No, that will be." His words died as he looked at her. Catherine kept her face composed, though her heart hammered against her ribs. Would he recognize her? Her appearance had changed, the dyed hair, the servant's dress, the deliberate stoop of her shoulders. But the eyes remained her own, the unusual shade of amber that had once prompted him to compare them to autumn sunlight through aged whiskey. For one breathless moment, she thought recognition had dawned. But then Heinrich merely frowned slightly, as if trying to place a half-remembered face, before turning back to his papers. Actually, he said, wait a moment. I need a message delivered to Count Metternich. Yes, Your Majesty. She cursed inwardly. Metternich, the aging chancellor, knew her well. If he saw her, the game would be up. Heinrich scribbled a note, folded it, and sealed it with a drop of wax pressed with his signet ring. He handed it to her, his fingers brushing hers. The brief contact sent electricity through her veins, memories flooding back. His hands cupping her face in the palace orangery, the taste of his lips, whispered promises neither had been able to keep. Ensure this reaches him directly, Heinrich said, then paused, studying her more carefully. Have you served in the palace long? You seem familiar somehow. Catherine kept her eyes lowered. Only a few months, Your Majesty. Perhaps Your Majesty has seen me in the corridors. Perhaps. His tone suggested he remained unconvinced. What is your name? Clara, Your Majesty. Clara. He tested the name, and she could feel his gaze still upon her. Look at me, Clara. Her heart stopped. This was the moment she had both feared and secretly longed for. Slowly, Catherine raised her eyes to his. Heinrich's expression remained neutral, but she saw the almost imperceptible widening of his eyes, the slight parting of his lips. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he turned away abruptly. That will be all. Catherine curtsied and retreated, her pulse racing. Had he recognized her? If so, why had he let her go? She delivered the message to Metternich's secretary, careful to avoid the chancellor himself, then returned to the kitchens where chaos reigned as the reception approached. Throughout the evening, as she helped serve the diplomatic corps, Catherine caught Heinrich watching her from across the ballroom, his expression unreadable. 3 days passed, during which Catherine twice attempted to access the former empress's study, only to find it locked or occupied. On the 4th day, she was assigned to clean the imperial residence's east wing, a stroke of luck, as it placed her near her objective. As she dusted the corridor, watching for an opportunity, the click of boots on marble alerted her to someone's approach. Catherine busied herself with a vase of fresh flowers, keeping her back turned. Clara. Heinrich's voice was quiet but commanding. She turned, curtsying deeply. Your Majesty. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. Catherine followed him down the corridor, through a small door, and into one of the palace's many interior gardens, this one rarely used except by staff. Autumn had painted the small courtyard in golds and reds, a fountain at its center still playing despite the season's advancing chill. Heinrich closed the door behind them. They were alone. How long did you think you could maintain this deception, Catherine? Her name on his lips after so long nearly undid her. She met his gaze directly now, no longer pretending. You knew? Not at first. But your eyes. He shook his head, a hint of the boy she'd known visible beneath the Emperor's formal mask. I would know them anywhere. The question is, why? Why return in disguise? Your father's situation has improved. The ban on your family was lifted months ago. Catherine hadn't known this. Her father, proud and still bitter, had never told her. I came for something belonging to my mother. A diary she kept, hidden in Empress Maria Theresa's study. Heinrich's expression hardened. You came to steal from the imperial collection? No. It's a family heirloom, nothing more. She couldn't reveal the diary's true importance, not until she was certain of where Heinrich's sympathies truly lay in these revolutionary times. You might have written. As a private citizen, you could have requested an audience. Catherine gave a bitter laugh. Would you have granted it? After signing the order for my family's expulsion yourself? Pain flashed across his features. I had no choice. The Security Council demanded it. Your father was corresponding with known revolutionaries. He was doing his diplomatic duty, reporting on all factions to London. I know that now. Heinrich's voice softened. But then, I was newly crowned, surrounded by advisors warning me that showing leniency would be seen as weakness. He stepped closer. Do you think I wanted you to go? That night, after the order was signed, I rode to your family's residence, but you had already left. This was news to Catherine. You came. I couldn't let you leave thinking I had betrayed you willingly. His hand reached toward her face but stopped short of touching her. But you were gone. Not even a farewell note. My father gave us an hour to pack. I wrote to you, but the servant I entrusted with the letter must have been intercepted. Catherine blinked back tears. I mourned you, Heinrich. Not just the man, but the boy who recited Goethe to me under the linden trees. Something in his face changed, softened. I looked for you in London. When relations improved enough for diplomatic contact to resume, I made inquiries. They said you had married an English baron. Catherine shook her head. Another Catherine Wright, my distant cousin. I never married. I was in Italy, serving as companion to an elderly countess who had been my mother's friend. A silence fell between them, filled with unspoken words and years of separation. The diary, Heinrich finally said. Why now? After 5 years. Catherine hesitated, then decided on honesty. It contains information that could compromise Austrian diplomatic security. My father received intelligence that certain revolutionary elements are searching for it. Heinrich's eyes widened slightly. And you came yourself, rather than sending warning? Would you have believed a letter from the daughter of a man you once suspected of treason? She met his gaze steadily. Besides, I needed to see. See what, if anything remained of the boy I loved, beneath the emperor's crown. His expression softened further. Catherine. He took her hand, the first deliberate touch in 5 years. His fingers were calloused now, a soldier's hands, not the smooth ones she remembered. Everything remains. Buried, perhaps, under duty and protocol, but still there. A distant bell rang, signaling the changing of the palace guard. I must go, Heinrich said, reluctance clear in his voice. The Hungarian delegation arrives in an hour. He released her hand slowly. Meet me tonight, in the Empress's study. 10 o'clock. We will find your mother's diary together. Catherine nodded, hope and caution warring within her. How do I know this isn't a trap? His smile was sad. You don't. But I never stopped loving you, Catherine. Remember that. He left her there in the garden, autumn leaves swirling around her feet, her mind reeling with possibilities both wonderful and terrible. That evening, Catherine slipped through the palace corridors, no longer pretending to be a servant, but moving with the confidence of someone who belonged. She had changed from her servant's attire into a simple, dark dress borrowed from one of the lady's maids, her hair unpinned and falling in its natural waves. The Empress's study was unlocked, a single lamp burning inside. Heinrich stood by the window, his uniform replaced by a simple white shirt and dark trousers. He looked younger this way, more like the Archduke she had fallen in love with than the Emperor he had become. You came, he said, relief evident in his voice. Did you doubt I would? I have learned to doubt everything, these past years. He gestured to the room. Where is this hidden compartment? Catherine moved to the ornate writing desk that had belonged to Maria Theresa, running her fingers along its carved edge. Here, there's a mechanism. She pressed a specific point, and with a soft click, a small drawer slid out from what had appeared to be solid wood. Inside lay a leather-bound volume, its pages yellowed with age. Catherine lifted it reverently. My mother's hand. She opened it, flipping through until she found what she sought. Several pages covered in what appeared to be poetry but was, in fact, a detailed cipher key to Austrian diplomatic codes created during the Napoleonic Wars, some still in use. This is what they seek? Heinrich asked, looking over her shoulder. Yes. With this, revolutionary agents could decode diplomatic communications, anticipate troop movements, perhaps even forge orders. She turned to face him. It must be destroyed. Heinrich studied her face. You truly came to protect the empire, not harm it. I came to protect innocent lives, Catherine corrected gently. War benefits no one but generals and arms dealers. I've seen enough of Italy's struggles to know that. He took the diary from her hands, examined the cipher pages, then moved to the fireplace. Without hesitation, he tore out those specific pages and fed them to the flames, watching as they curled and blackened. The rest should remain yours, he said, handing the diary back. Your mother's memories belong to you. Catherine accepted it, touched by the gesture. Thank you. They stood in silence for a moment, the firelight playing across their faces. What happens now? Catherine finally asked. Heinrich's expression grew serious. That depends. Will you disappear again? Return to Italy or England, leaving me to wonder for another 5 years? And if I stayed, what place is there for me here? The disgraced diplomat's daughter? Another palace servant? Or the emperor's wife? Heinrich said quietly. Catherine stared at him, certain she had misheard. Heinrich, I have spent 5 years trying to rebuild an empire crumbling around me, he continued. Making compromises, alliances, decisions that keep me awake at night. The one thing I have never compromised on is the hope of finding you again. The court would never accept me. The diplomatic implications alone, the court will accept whom I choose, he said with quiet authority. As for diplomacy, an English bride might actually strengthen our position with Britain. But even if it didn't, he took her hands in his. I am tired of sacrificing personal happiness for political expediency. Catherine felt tears welling. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. When I recognized your eyes that day, I thought I was seeing a ghost. Everything I had lost, standing before me in servant's clothing. It took every ounce of imperial training not to gather you in my arms then and there. And now, what does your imperial training tell you to do? Heinrich smiled, a true smile that reached his eyes, transforming his face back into the one she had fallen in love with years ago. To hell with imperial training. He kissed her then, a kiss 5 years in the making, gentle at first, and then with growing urgency, as if making up for lost time. Catherine responded in kind, her arms wrapping around his neck, the diary dropping forgotten to the carpet. When they finally parted, breathless, Heinrich pressed his forehead to hers. Stay? Not as a servant, not hidden away, but as yourself. Let me court you properly this time, without secrecy. There will be opposition, Catherine warned. Questions about my loyalty, my father's politics. Let them question. I've spent too long trying to please everyone else. His voice was firm. I am emperor. It's time I used that position for something that truly matters. By the following morning, the palace hummed with rumors. The emperor had been seen walking in the private gardens with a mysterious woman. By midday, Catherine's true identity had been revealed, her position as a servant terminated, and suitable apartments arranged for her in the diplomatic wing. Over the following weeks, as autumn deepened into winter, Heinrich courted her openly. They attended the opera together, rode through the Prater when weather permitted, and held long conversations about the future of the empire. Catherine's diplomatic background proved unexpectedly valuable as Heinrich navigated the complex negotiations with Hungary, her perspective helping to shape a compromise that would eventually lead to the dual monarchy. The imperial court adjusted to her presence with varying degrees of acceptance. Some welcomed the humanizing influence she had on their serious young emperor. Others whispered behind fans about her father's liberal leanings and her own unconventional behavior. Let them talk, Heinrich said one evening as they sat by the fire in his private study, Catherine reading aloud from Goethe while he sketched her profile. They talked when Maria Theresa married for love, when Joseph II attempted his reforms. The Habsburg throne has weathered worse than gossip. And your uncle? The Archduke has made his disapproval quite clear. Heinrich set down his pencil. My uncle disapproves of everything I do. If I followed his advice, we'd still be fighting Napoleon. He took her hand, kissing her palm. Besides, he'll change his mind when he sees what a diplomatic asset you are. Your suggestion for the Hungarian language rights was brilliant. In March of 1849, as the first crocuses pushed through the snow in the palace gardens, Heinrich proposed formally, presenting Catherine with a ring that had belonged to his mother. The court announcement followed, setting the wedding for June. The months of preparation passed in a blur of fittings, protocol lessons, and diplomatic meetings. Catherine found an unexpected ally in the Dowager Empress, Heinrich's formidable grandmother, who declared her exactly what this stuffy court needs, someone with sense and spine. On their wedding day, as Catherine processed down the aisle of St. Stephen's Cathedral, she caught Heinrich's eye. The look they shared, full of promise, memory, and triumph over circumstance, needed no words. They had found each other against all odds, across time and borders and misunderstandings. Later, as they danced at their wedding ball, Heinrich whispered, Do you remember what you said that night in the Empress's study? About what place there could be for you here? Catherine smiled up at him. I believe you answered that question quite definitively, Your Majesty. I did, he agreed, spinning her gently under the crystal chandeliers. But I've been thinking, perhaps the true answer is that you make your own place. You always have. Diplomat's daughter, companion, palace servant, and now empress, You've never let circumstances define you. A useful quality in uncertain times, Catherine said, thinking of the challenges still facing the empire. In any times. Heinrich's hand tightened on hers. Those eyes of yours, they've always seen clearly, even when I couldn't. Promise you'll never stop looking at me that way, seeing both the emperor and the man. I promise, Catherine said. After all, it was my eyes that gave me away. It seems only fitting they should be my greatest strength as well. As they continued their dance, Heinrich's gaze never left hers, as if memorizing every fleck of gold in their amber depths. Around them, the court watched and whispered, but their voices faded to nothing in the circle of light that seemed to surround the newly wedded couple. A light kindled by recognition, tested by separation, and now burning steadily, illuminating not just their future, but that of an empire finding its way into a new era. In the years that followed, historians would note how the young emperor's marriage coincided with a period of remarkable stability and reform. Few would connect these changes to the empress with the remarkable amber eyes, who had once disguised herself as a palace servant until the emperor recognized what had always been visible. The soul of the woman he loved, watching him from behind her careful mask, waiting for the moment when they could both finally see clearly.